If we talk about the 24th of February, when it all started, we were performing tasks in the Luhansk axis, Shastya region. When you fight back, kick them in the teeth, they all run away, because they have no motivation. And when my fellow and I were lying in the field, the enemy drone was flying above and a tank was shooting very close to the village. We hit tanks with handheld anti-tank weapons. At first, we dealt with 3 tanks, and then we were engaged in infantry. I had to watch an enemy run from at range at night to his place of deployment so I wouldn't shoot him. He tripped twice and fell. The enemy's fear is my merit. Our task was to enter the grey zone or even to the enemy-controlled territory and reveal their fire points, positions, warehouses, enemy locations. That's how we got our first trophy, T-80 tank, new one. I think it came from some kind of conservation. During the full-scale invasion, artillery, tanks and aviation appeared and everything becomes much more complicated. On principle, I don't count my shots. We were watching them for a while, let them relax, and then we just set up a fire ambush and destroyed a group of 20 people. If we talk about the 24th of February, when it all started, we were performing tasks in the Luhansk axis, Shastya region. For the first month and a half, we performed our typical tasks. It was related to the reconnaissance of the territory. Now the front line is more formed. We already understand where the enemy is, where ours are, but that moment, even in the headquarters, they didn't know. The front line was constantly moving back and forwards. Enemy columns moved, we destroyed them, they retreated, didn't secure positions. The same ours didn't gain a foothold, were smashed and the enemy came back. Our task was to enter the grey zone or even to the enemy-controlled territory and reveal their fire points, positions, warehouses, enemy locations. In one area we were moving as a mobile group, getting information about where the enemy column was moving from. We went to that area and with anti-tank weapons waited for the enemy column. Those were our tasks at that time, and we were constantly moving, no one stood still. After that, our entire unit was transferred to another axis. There was a reserve base, and from there our special groups were sent to work in different areas. It was outside Avdiivka, when we went out on our specific task. We went out at night, the artillery was constantly working. We had to identify the target, because the armored forces of Ukraine didn't work on those positions. And in that part of the village where we worked, 60% were occupied by Russian forces and 40% was under our control. They were knocking out ours. The armored forces of Ukraine didn't know what was happening at our positions. They didn't fire at each other, and when we asked where is the target, ours didn't know. We had to identify the target but not giving ourselves away during the entry. And the most important, to survive. And when my fellow and I were lying in the field, the enemy drone was flying above and a tank was shooting very close to the village. The distance was about 400–300 meters. Fragments of slate and concrete flew at us. I was lying covered with a net and asked, "They cannot see us, can they?" And my fellow said, "Now they are focused at the village, not us. And if you don't move, they won't see. But if you move, they will kill us." And I thought then, not bad. we really are professionals now. We didn't succumb to emotions, didn't jump up, didn't run away, and we continued to walk and destroyed the target. Identified the white mark and hit it. The main tasks that we had during the entire period we performed near Novosilka. And recent tasks entrusted to my squad directly to my group were Vuhledar axis, Pavlivka. I think it's on everyone's lips. It was stormed by the enemy for a long time. We were in Pavlivka with our fellows from the 72nd Brigade. We arrived there and our main task was to clear up the settlement, eliminate the last pockets of enemy resistance. We came there in the morning and occupied our sector. Something went a little off plan there, but we had quickly adjusted on the location and understood we have to stay. Next day, at 7:30 AM, the enemy entered Pavlivka. At that moment, there were only my unit and a part of other NGU unit. And we accepted the fight. We hit tanks with handheld anti-tank weapons. At first, we dealt with 3 tanks, and then we were engaged in infantry. We hit the tank, it even moved away from us. Russian tankers ran out. We talked with them a little bit, in the language of war. We left the tank for now, but it was still started, and during the fight we realized that it was bothering us because the engine was constantly running, and we didn't hear what was happening on our flank. So we decided to get in there, to see how to shut down it. We're not tankers, we didn't understand how to do it right. At last, we decided to contact the commander of the 72nd Brigade, and they explained to us over the radio how to shut down it. That's how we got our first trophy, T-80 tank, new one. I think it came from some kind of conservation. And then, of course, the urban fighting continued. We held the settlement for 2 days. We can't call it town, it's small settlement. But the enemy understood that we had already seized the initiative and began to constantly aim their artillery of various calibers. Tanks were working, heavy flamethrower system as well. We understood that the further we are from the enemy's infantry, the more vulnerable we are for its artillery. Therefore, it was decided to reduce the distance to the enemy, so the artillery couldn't work. Also, at the same time, we adjusted the fire of our artillery, and little by little we pushed the enemy out of the settlement, thus throwing it to our artillery. This helped to keep the settlement, which was of strategic importance. As we fought against 155th Marine Brigade, we knew them well and understood what they were doing. We had a few people in Pavlivka. It helped us to organize small tactical groups and maneuver properly. As a result, we misled the enemy. They just thought there were too many of us. Because we were shooting from almost all sides, this made them feel a little confused. Then 2 IFVs with enemy's infantry came to help. Our Stugna and Javelin crew dealt with them. In fact, those were the last enemy paratroopers, and we already easily dealt with them. So I think it's one of the serious operations that we have done. Basically, we used to consider snipers as the most dangerous ones. But now, during the full-scale invasion, artillery, tanks and aviation appeared, and everything becomes much more complicated. We can say that work of our snipers has changed from a bit ordinary to something with strong dynamics. We have to move into positions for reconnaissance at night, sleep in places where it's impossible to sleep at all, be cold, communicate with people who, in fact, have no time for you. The most crucial, there are a lot of UAVs appeared in the sky. They interfere with our work. They can see us when we move around, but we need to get to work somehow. We are visible when we move around. When we go in and disguise ourselves, we are no longer visible, because we don't move. An operator of UAV cannot spot a target that is not moving. How close did you get to the enemy? The closest? Back to back. When we carried out sabotage and conducted reconnaissance in Kreminna in April. Who was your target? Two military engineers. They were mining the forest belt in the outskirts of Kreminna. Did you shoot them? I shot them with an assault rifle. Often we came to the positions, communicate with the unit's commanders and ask, "Guys, organize silence for us." The less shooting is from our positions, the more relaxed the enemy will feel on their side. And the more relaxed they feel, the easier it's for me. Where I have worked, there will be less shooting from the other side. They will know and be afraid that if they move out of the trench, something can fly there, because someone nearby was hit. Once we met with the Russian Special Forces unit Akhmat. In fact, we were the first to see them, therefore the initiative was on our side. We were watching them for a while, let them relax, and then we just set up a fire ambush and destroyed a group of 20 people. Where did it happen? It was near Velyka Novosilka village, Donetsk region. So we approached and realized who we were dealing with. When we saw all these titles Akhmat, like on tea bags. And definitely the enemy also crumbled like tea, I would say. When you fight back, kick them in the teeth, they all run away, because they have no motivation. One particular operation that I think was really difficult and dangerous to our lives and the lives of others was the operations to evacuate Marines from enemy territory. We worked on this operation together with other fellows from the 74th Reconnaissance Battalion. It was late March or early April. It was still quite cold rainy season, wet everywhere. By some miracle, I don't know how it happened, the 74th Battalion met one of the Marines who were moving from Mariupol. At that time, our Marines overcame about 60 kilometers. All that was already enemy territory, and they broke through it, less than 10 people. Most of them were artillerymen. It was an artillery group that covered the 36th Brigade, the 36th Marine Brigade. We have cooperated with it directly before the full-scale invasion. And our task was to enter not even to a grey zone, but to enter... It was not just the enemy's territory, but the enemy's rear. We have to enter there and meet with the group of Marines, because the group couldn't move on their own. There were wounded among them. If I'm not mistaken, 2 Marines. Also, everyone already was very tired. Their path wasn't easy. First, reconnaissance was carried out with a Velyka. We tried to lead the group as much as possible, especially at night, wherever our Velyka could reach. We led them so there would be no collisions with the enemy. There were already checkpoints everywhere. The area was completely controlled by the enemy. At that time, my group was in the main watch. And there was also an engineer from our unit in the main watch. We trolled the road so as not to step on anything or detonate, so that our mission doesn't end before it begins. From our location to the place where the group was at that time, it's almost 20 kilometers one way. We had to go through groves, fields, bushes, mainly shrubs and a few pines. And if we were to face the enemy, we were far away from our main forces, our group wasn't big, we were without any anti-tank weapon, had only carry ammunition with us. In that case, our ammunition would run out in 10-15 minutes of combat. The company commander, call sign NA, and his unit coordinated the operation. Fortunately, the leader of Marine Group had charged power banks and a phone, and he contacted NA directly, so NA coordinated him to the points where the group had to go. They were given encrypted coordinates, so only NA and the group leader could read them. They added and subtracted some numbers and years of birth. That's how it worked. Obviously, more than once, the enemy was following us very close. There were many times when, for example, we ran into their artillery, or a sabotage reconnaissance group waited in an ambush. Definitely regular mobile communications were tapped. And when we met those 2 people who came on us, we had no trust in them. We put the whole group on the ground and searched them. I felt sorry for them. It was clear that they were no longer fighters. They just wanted to get to the control point at last. After we had talked with them, we were convinced they are really our 36th Brigade. And we had to go back all together. I had to watch an enemy run from a trench at night to his place of deployment so I wouldn't shoot him. He tripped twice and fell. I don't deny that I wanted to shoot at him, but I let the target go. Why? He was in pain. It shows that my work is done. That soldiers on the other side are afraid that they will be shot at. At this stage, we showed them that there is no need to show up one more time. The enemy's fear is my merit. We have etiquette. We never shoot at a target we cannot identify. That's our main rule. And when there is at least a small chance that a civilian may be injured by our shot, we also won't shoot. On principle, I don't count my shots. And all my friends don't count either. I don't wanna carry such things as how many people I've killed or wounded, how many times I shot, or make notches on my stock. It's not correct. In any way, we kill living people. I don't want to carry such things with me. Maybe someone wastes time for such a nonsense, but not us. All these events over the past year have united everyone. They united us with some victories and some losses. And so, in reality, we are now like one family. And you know, when our guys are walking somewhere far away, I mean deep in the enemy's territory, there is no communication with them for a day or two. We do it only through the walkie-talkie. Their relatives don't know, but they feel something is happening, and their mothers call me. You know, when you pick up the phone and talk to every mother, and they ask, how is my Sasha, how is my Petya, and so on, it's clear that you reassure them, and you have to do it, because we all have mothers, and they worry about all of us. You know, the team now consists of several parts. There are our guys, and there are also their relatives and friends. I think when we win, we all will gather at the same table and not only celebrate, but also honor the memory. We want to kick the enemy out of our land as soon as possible, and to ensure that a man from Urupinsk not dictate his laws here. Our strength is that we are fighting for our country, we live for it and fight for our people. Even our authors have differences. They swear an oath to the fatherland, and we swear an oath to the Ukrainian people. That's why we are loyal forever.